Let's talk about if worship leaders should use backing tracks during worship or not. Hot topic. So the first thing I've written down up here is called, it's okay if it's subtle. So we're just gonna dive right in. First, before I keep going, let me say, if you go to my website, jaredmckenna.com, you'll find a free hymnal to download. Just give me your email address. I also wanna send out pretty soon free lead sheets for my arrangements of my favorite Christmas carols. And I know it's sacrilegious to talk about Christmas now. It's a little early, but still, be looking forward to that. Also, check me out on Substack. You might be watching this on Substack, but if not, go over to Substack, and there is a $5 a month option. So if this video is useful to you, do all the things like it, subscribe, share it, or go to my Substack. That'll be really helpful to me to let me know that this stuff is useful. So anyway, let me keep going here. Backing tracks, is it okay? It's okay if it's subtle. So by subtle, I mean, if you have an electric player who's doing a fancy lead part, you can use a track for maybe a rhythm electric guitar to help give some crunch to the mix, some driving sounds. People won't necessarily be able to tell, most people won't be able to tell if the lead player is not the one also playing the rhythm riffs as well. So that's an example of a subtle addition, something that's not obvious, sort of in the face of everybody, like, oh, there's no guitarist up there today, but I can hear a guitar in the mix, so they're obviously using tracks. It kind of reduces the sense of authenticity behind it. So another example of subtlety would be a pad. A pad barely qualifies as a backing track. So the pad just creates a little bit of warm ambient texture, and if you have a keys player or a guitar player, people might just think that they're doing the pad. So a pad is a subtle thing that you can introduce. There are other ways of being subtle too, if you can be creative. The main idea about subtlety is trying to help not make it obvious that you're using backing tracks. The extreme opposite of this would be if you just played like a YouTube video behind you and just sang along with the YouTube video. That would be the most glaring example of not being subtle at all. So the other thing I'll say about backing tracks is that they might not be as necessary as you think they are. So I'm not going to say if they're good or bad. That's for you guys to debate in the comments section. That'd be really fun to see what everyone's opinion is on this. Little Milli Vanilli action with the backing tracks. But let's see what you guys say. But I'll just say they're not as needed as you think they are. And here's what I mean. First of all, if you have a piano player or acoustic guitar player, then you can boost the bass on the piano, boost the bass on your acoustic guitar, and play in a way that takes into account that you say you don't have a bass player that day. And you can actually get a convincing low end out of an acoustic and out of a piano, especially if your venue has subwoofers. And then you suddenly realize you don't necessarily need a bass player, a bass track, because that low end is being taken up by the piano. So your piano player will think, okay, now I'm the bass guitar, so I'm going to do a lot of left-hand octaves, and the sound engineer can boost that 100 hertz, 80 hertz, 60 hertz, the low end to really thump into those subwoofers. Same with the acoustic guitar. If you were going to play like this, stand amazed in the presence of Jesus the Nazarene. See that? That's not going to work anymore if I don't have my other players with me and I'm thinking about using a backing track like a bass guitar. Well, instead, I stand amazed in the presence of Jesus the Nazarene. See, I brought my bass guitar in. I didn't need a track for that. And if this bass guitar is in the house subwoofer with a boost, then that's great. And notice I'm not playing it the whole time. I stand amazed in the presence. That's too much low end. So I'd play my bottom end on my acoustic like it's a bass guitar. I stand amazed in the presence of Jesus the Nazarene, and wonder how he could love me. See that? So what I'm getting at here is that your backing tracks, if you get rid of them, you might notice that it forces you to be creative in the way that you play. You have to become the bassist, or you have to become the shaker. You have to become the shaker. So instead of putting a shaker in the tracks, I stand amazed in the presence of Jesus the Nazarene. Hear that? A real soft touch to create that subdivision that normally a shaker would take. Now you have to be a good player and figure out how to do that yourself. So by not using tracks, you force yourself into that space of creativity. My encouragement to you. And the other thing I mentioned, of course, was boosting the bass on your soundboard. So the kick drum in the subs. This is another thing. If you the other option is to don't boost your acoustic too much. Boost it a little bit if you don't have a bassist, for example. I'm really picking on the bassist this morning, not showing up to church. I don't know why, but the kick drum, you can also boost that in the house. Really send the kick to the subs, as it should be, and let it have a woof, boom, boom, and let it take over in that way. And that really, and then tell the drummer, hey, we don't have a bass guitar today. You're our bass guitar. So that means the drummer's gonna be, just like I was demonstrating, the drummer's gonna have to be really intentional about where he puts his kick. Stand amazed in the if that kick drum's in the subwoofer with a little bit of a boost, then it's really going to fill that low end space, and people won't miss the bass so much. Okay, so the idea here is, again, just inspiring you to be creative and improve your bag of tricks to compensate for the fact that you don't have other players. So this is what I'm saying here, playing style. So another example of this would be great church pianists already know this. The classic church piano, there's a reason why the piano and the organ, but the piano has become the quintessential church instrument. I'm not sitting behind a piano. I could demonstrate if I was, but a piano can go from this just basic simple chords is what I was trying to play just then, to hogging the whole room and sounding like an orchestra. And in this case, when I say hogging the whole room, I mean that in a good way this time, because the piano can really step up its game and totally fill the room. It's got the pluckiness of a percussion instrument, but the ringing outness of strings and drums and bells and guitars. The piano can do it all, and it's huge, especially if you have like a 7-foot or even a 9-foot grand. You can slam that low end, you can sparkle up top, and you can dig in right in the middle. So the piano is a great instrument if you're low on musicians. It can really fill in the sound and still be very rhythmic and plucky at the same time, so you don't lose those rhythms. So in other words, my final advice is backing tracks are ethically, technically okay, and if they're subtle, I respect them. However, I would encourage you to see how far you can get without them and see what's necessary before you give up. So I would encourage you to try things. The acoustic guitar and the piano are great instruments to experiment with interesting kinds of playing that imitate a more full sound. So with a little bit of creativity in your playing and a little bit of low-end boost with a little bit of a mid-scoop on the soundboard, you can still fill up your room a lot and take away the headache of having to play along with backing tracks and stay along with the cues and all that sort of thing. So, all right, that's my advice for today. Hopefully it's helpful for some of you guys just getting started out in this area. Glad to help. Email me any questions, leave comments, share, check me out on Substack and YouTube. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.